Okay, so last week I just finished playing the Trails in the Sky remake, and I have a lot of good things to say about it. I really don't have too many bad things to say. I'll just tell you guys right now, I really, really enjoyed this game, like a lot more than I initially thought I would have off of the heels of playing one JRPG and then just jumping immediately into another one without taking a break. So let's just get into it. My thoughts about the game and what I'm ready for with the next game. Good morning, world. This is the Space Cowboy coming from the Interplanetary Good Vibe Zone. And before we start the video, I just want to say thank you guys for watching. And before we get into everything, I just want to let you guys know that the main goal for the channel right now is 500 subs by the end of this year. So please, if you like what I do, go ahead and hit that sub button. Make sure you like the video, comment, hit that notification bell so that you never miss any updates for videos and live streams on the channel. With all that being said, let's get into the video. So the Trails in the Sky first chapter. The first game in a long-running series of games that I have never played. I have had some vague knowledge of the series only through just seeing these games on like the PlayStation stores and all that stuff, and vaguely hearing like some comments about some of the, I guess, more somewhat current games. I think like right around the time, I believe it's what, Trails of Cold Steel, like that part of the series and all that. And I think I might have even played the demo for one of those games just to try it out. And I don't remember much of it, but I vaguely remember liking what I did play. So looking at this game and, you know, just being like my chance to really dive into this, I said, you know what, let me go ahead and take the plunge, especially because I saw the English voice cast for this game and how stacked it is. This game has like some of my most favorite people ever when it comes to entertainment, like the GOAT, the absolute legend himself, Johnny Bosch. Of course, we got Stephanie Shea in here as well. Like, oh my gosh. Michelle Rupp's in here, Matt Mercer's in here. Like, we got a lot of really great English voice actors in this game. And I'll just say right off the bat, I enjoyed the English voice cast. It's not very often that I usually play any of my JRPGs in English, mostly because of like how, you know, the scripts are written or just how the general writing around the English voice cast gets, and it can sound pretty cheesy for the most part, or, you know, maybe not a right amount of emotion can get conveyed. And that's not necessarily the fault of the English voice actors / actresses themselves. That's just more of like a actual one-to-one, you know, translating Japanese to English, and how even some dialogue might not be the 100% accurate translation. Like, there were a couple of instances where I was playing the game and the characters would be talking in their English voices, but there were some words that were not accurate to what the characters were actually saying, at least in their English voices. Why that's a thing, I don't know. Maybe that was like a little mishap that they didn't get a chance to fix, or maybe they didn't notice it, but that's just kind of one of those things. But overall, I do think that the English voice cast did a very solid job. I do think that there could have been some spots with a couple of the voice actors where I think they could have put in just a little bit more, you know, oomph into their performances. And that's only because I've known these voice actors for so long, hearing these voices of these people since I was a child. You know, I kind of expect a lot from these voice actors, but I don't think they did a terrible job at all whatsoever. Like, they did a very solid job just, you know, bringing these characters to life, which is always one of the number one things about a JRPG. You know, for me, that's like one of my main quotas. If the characters are boring or stale, you already lose me like 50, maybe even like 70% way through the game, because the whole point of playing a JRPG in one part is the story, but that story is lived through with its characters, which is the next thing I'll get into with is the story. But actually, before I do get into that, I will say that this game looks very good. Like, this game looks very pretty, like very much like Visions of Mana. I love the settings that we're in. I love exploring the capital of Liberal and just going through all these different regions, all these different locations, seeing what all these different monsters look like, areas that look very bright and colorful, and then, you know, some areas that look a little bit more muted, but not in a bad way. Like, it fits the aesthetic that it should fit. Like, if you're in a cave, or maybe you're in like a Misty Valley area, you know, stuff like that. This game looks very good, and especially with the models. Like, I don't know what it is about this game and the way it looks. Like, yeah, maybe you could say this just looks like a generic 3D Japanese anime-looking like game or something. I don't know. Like, there's just something about the models that I think look really good in this game. I don't know if it's the shading, like the, you know, the way the colors are, like the way everything just kind of comes together. But yeah, no, they look good. And, speaking of bringing these characters to life, the way these characters are able to emote and express themselves through the movement, even in like the small little speech bubble things where you'll have like a smaller like cut portion of the character's model and, seeing how their faces move and how their eyes and everything like move and all that stuff, along with the voice acting itself, really makes these characters feel like characters. It doesn't feel static or anything like that. There are some JRPGs out there that do have that sort of like static, motionless feeling to it, but I don't think that's an issue at all in this game. Now, on to the story, which I will say, this being, having knowledge that this is the first game in a very long-running series, especially with just this main trilogy in of itself, there is a good bit left to be desired. But not in a bad way. This really is the start of these two like main characters with Estelle and Joshua, watching them grow together as as people, as bracers. That's kind of like their main thing in this game, like bracers. If I had to compare it to anything, I don't know why this analogy popped up in my head. It's very similar to essentially what like wizards and guilds are in Fairy Tail, the Fairy Tail anime manga series and whatnot. That's essentially what bracers are. Bracers are a group of people that take up odd jobs, whether that's like, fighting monsters or, just helping out people in their regions, taking up a bunch of tasks. And, they also work alongside with the royal army of the capital of Liberal, I believe it is. But it's not like it's a thing where like anybody can just become a bracer. Like it is a very official thing. They're kind of like a secondary peacekeeping force of Liberal, and that's what Estelle and Joshua pretty much are aiming to be, like high-ranking, senior bracers, living up to their father, Cassius Bright, which, he pretty much disappears from for the majority of the game. We do get a little bit of Cassius Bright in the beginning. The whole mystery of like this first game for Estelle and Joshua is trying to find out what happened with their father, which I will say, by the way, these two characters are not blood related. He was adopted by Cassius and brought into his home, and he got to grow up with Estelle, and they got to grow a very loving relationship with each other in both ways, if you understand what I mean. There are some things I'm going to try to like not spoil with the game. I usually do like to go into spoilers, but I'll try my best not to really go too much into spoilers with this one, especially because a lot of what happens in this game does lead directly into the next game's story, very much a direct continuation of all the stuff that's happening and going on. I will say, again, I do love the characters. I love the characters a lot in this game. Estelle is very, she very much takes up that position of, I guess, what you would say the shonen protagonist is, like, very straightforward, very kind of hard-headed in some instances, but she's not an idiot. She's not stupid. She very much grows into her role as a bracer, and you can see like in her decision making and how she thinks evolves, and she still has her priorities and her morals and all that stuff, but she also learns to handle situations better than what she normally would have, which probably wasn't anything at all. And Joshua being the more cool-headed protagonist, like he's not like an asshole or anything like that. He could be a little I don't want to say emo-ish, because he doesn't really evoke any of that kind of like personality stuff. But if you look at these two characters together, I feel like you'd understand what I mean, right? Estelle is more like outward and bubbly and all this stuff, and Joshua is a bit more concealed in himself, but he does also very much have a heart of gold, and he very much cares for the people that he calls friends and loved ones, especially when it comes to Estelle and all that stuff. Even with the other characters, Sherazade, she's a great character, for obvious reasons, but no, she's a very cool character, and I very much enjoyed having her around as much as I did. I'll say this too, dude. Olivier, I believe that's how you say it, because that's how they pronounced it in English. But Olivier, I think he's low-key like my favorite character out of, aside from Joshua and Estelle. Like he's like my favorite supporting character, or at least I liked him a lot more than I thought I was going to. He kind of fits that archetype of a very pompous, in over his head kind of character, but not in a annoying way. It's actually pretty charming, especially because he comes in clutch a lot in the story and gameplay and combat as well. So yeah, like really cool character, and I definitely can't wait to use him more. And Zin is also a really cool character as well. It sucks that I got to play with him at the tail end of the game, but I'm a sucker for anything that's a martial artist in any kind of video game, because Dragon Ball and all that kind of stuff. But no, like really sick character. I like all of the characters. And that's not just for the main cast and the supporting cast. One thing I think this game does really well is that it makes the world feel very lived in. All of the random NPCs that you just witness throughout the world, or even just like characters with very, very minor roles, those characters feel like they have character. It's one of those things where it's like, hey, I don't want to know your entire life story, but it'd be cool to like kind of have like a filler side adventure just with these characters. And that's great when I can say a thing about an RPG with not only the main cast and like the supporting cast being good, but even the smallest characters out there, no matter how minor their role is or how, you know, how short they show up for in the game, this is still a character. It's like, oh man, I really hope nothing bad happens to this character, or it'd be great to see these characters pop up one more time, maybe like a side venture or something, you know, like just stuff like that. I really love the world of Trails in the Sky, and it's something that I really can't wait to explore more of in the second game. Like, I grabbed onto this game a lot more than I originally thought I would. I didn't think I was going to dislike the game at all, but I'm really sitting here thinking, damn, this game might be one of my favorite RPGs of the year, might just be one of my favorite games in the year in general. Like, you know, it's insane. And mind you, I never even played the original version. I never played the original game that came out like, you know, years and years ago. But I do know that this game is available, the original version anyway. It is available on Steam, and I do plan on playing that at some point when I do get a little bit more open time in my schedule. You know, whenever I finish playing like a bunch of other stuff that I'm still trying to like keep up with. I still got a couple more games this year that are coming out, and even stuff that I didn't get a chance to pick up just yet that came out this year still. So the backlog continues to grow, but I will definitely add the original Trails game to the list because I've been playing games for a long ass time, and just seeing that game, I already go like, yeah, this is something that's definitely in my wheelhouse that I can definitely play no problem. And oh man, the gameplay. Dude, the gameplay is sick. So what I really like about the gameplay in this game is that it mixes action-based RPG-isms with turn-based combat. But the thing about this game is that it really is mainly a turn-based game. You don't have a set amount of different combos you can do in the action battle phases, which I believe in this game is called quick battles. So it's quick battles, and then the turn-based stuff is command battles. So quick battles feels like it's just there to, you know, help out with like grinding, or maybe you want to fight like some smaller monsters, you don't want to necessarily just take the time out to, you know, go to the full like command battle thing. Or you can also use quick battles to weaken up some of the enemies and build up the stun gauge and all that stuff. And then you transition into the command battle part of it all. And it's really, really cool. Positioning is the name of the game. Your characters have a set range of where they can move around within the zone of the enemies that you're fighting and all that stuff. So benefits and cons to that side of gameplay, where maybe you want to move a character around so that they don't get hit by a certain line within the enemy's attack, because attacks in this game have a range that you can evade. You know, like it's one of those games where if I use like a spell or the skills, which in this game are called arts, they have a cone or a circular pattern, and it's like, okay, I can move this ability around, or I can move my character and I have this much amount of range. Or even with like stuff like healing, say if I had an AoE healing spell, right? If my character is on a part of the map where I can't necessarily reach them, well, if I center the AoE healing spell on the character itself that's using it, and then I can move that character along to try to get close to any of your allies that are not within range and all that stuff. I just really, really enjoyed with this game. Like, the combat in this game is very fun, very addicting. The spells are also very cool, although this is one of those instances in a JRPG where the spells are not the main thing in the game. It's really the character's arts that are a thing. And I'm pretty sure they'll probably expand on that whenever the second chapter remake comes out, hopefully like sometime next year. I have learned, just talking from some people that have played these games, this is very similar to Yakuza in the sense that they pump out these games like yearly. So hopefully I'm not too far off, because I really don't want to wait for the second game. Like I really am that giddy and ecstatic to play the next entry, just to see where these characters go. But man, like I definitely enjoyed the gameplay. And dude, I was playing on normal difficulty, by the way, and I still had some issues. And granted, I was still learning about like the combat systems. And something else I didn't mention, another main central thing about this game's combat system, this game has something called quartz. And quartz are essentially these little orbs that you equip in slots, and those quartz give you access to stat increases. So if you're increasing your strength, being like your damage, you know, like HP values, defense, your arts, or like your mana gauge. But they also give you access to different types of spells. And the really cool way they work in this game is that they call it the line system. And the line system is what allows you to get access to different combinations or amounts of spells depending on the amount of the elemental affinity that the quartz takes up. So for instance, there's 5 or 6 elemental quartz. So there's like fire, water, earth, air, time, and space. I believe that's what they are. And you have a little value depending on which quartz you're starting off with, because I believe they go from 1 to 3. Then if you're doing New Game Plus, there's actually 3 plus. And the cool thing I actually heard about apparently is that I think it will carry over into the next game, or at least from 3 up is where we'll get quartz level 4 or something like that. I don't know. I'm just speculating because again, this is my first time getting into this. So please feel free to add on to anything here or correct me if I'm, wrong about anything or misleading about anything. But stuff like that, which is really cool. It made me think about how I wanted to build my characters, because I'm like, dang, it sucks. I want to use a certain spell, but then it's like, oh no, but then my character really is built for this. So it's like, you want to make sure you're building your characters with essential stuff, but you also want to make sure you're being flexible, because you can be flexible in this game with how you build your characters and what you want to use for them and all that stuff. You don't have to just stick with one specific way to build your character. Oh, this character is going to be strictly made for, physical DPS or magic DPS. And I had some challenge. I think this game provides a nice proper amount of challenge. It's not too difficult. It's not super easy. I really enjoyed fighting the monsters in this game, and the boss battles were pretty good for the most part. There were a couple of boss battles here and there where I was like, it's okay. It's not great. I think the boss battles against the human type enemies are pretty lackluster, maybe outside of 1 or 2 of them, but they're still pretty enjoyable. And the boss battles just against most, some of the monsters or even sub bosses and all that stuff can be pretty fun as well. The last dungeon in the game, their enemies were pretty okay, pretty standard, to be honest. I probably would have preferred if we just fought some crazy legendary monster, but we kind of just ended up fighting more mechanized, mechanical-esque kind of monsters, which, I mean, considering the setting that we're in this game, I do think that makes sense, because, the whole thing in this game is that they're finding more and more advanced technology and kind of these ancient devices and all this stuff that goes further into what goes on into later games and all that kind of stuff. So it's really, really cool. Again, like I said, I enjoyed this game a lot. Other nitpicky things aside, the English voice acting here and there, certain parts. There's also a couple of weird instances in this game. I don't know if this is a thing that was intentional, but there's sometimes in cutscenes where character models have their eyes closed when they're saying something. Instead of just blinking, they'll talk and then close their eyes for a moment. It stays that way, and then they open them back up. I don't know if that's the English voice acting that just doesn't flow well with those instances, but man, I'm a Trails fan. After this, I'm not lying when I say this. This, at least when it comes to this trilogy with these 2 characters, with Estelle and Joshua, I love these 2. I love them together. I love that, they're so cool. They're cute together. They're great. I can't wait to play with them again in the second game. I can't wait to see what the second game has in store for me. This game is genuinely one of my favorite games of this year. Listen, I have to say this. By the time I started playing this game, I played this game literally a week after I had finished streaming / playing Dragon Quest III's remake. And I told myself that I was going to take a break because I just finished playing a nice, decently chunky JRPG. And then I picked this up literally the week after, or maybe a week and some change after. And after beating this game, I'm already sitting here fuck, I want to play this game again. I'm sitting here telling myself I want to do another playthrough of this game, because there isn't any post-game content in this thing either. It's only just the standard base game. So you'd have to do New Game Plus. But I did beat this game within 3 weeks, so it's not the longest thing ever. If you just crunch this game down, you probably could beat this in 2 weeks. This game is not super long. It provides just enough to give you a nice adventure. But yeah, it's crazy when I'm sitting here I love this game, and then immediately after beating it, I'm I want to play it again. I'm no. No, I gotta give myself a break from my RPG for at least a month or something, and just play some other stuff, which I am. So, man, guys, let me know if you did play the Trails in the Sky remake. Definitely pick up this game, please. If you've played the original, I definitely think you should play this game still. If you haven't played the original, still play this game. I think it's a great way to hop into this series and explore the world and get to experience its characters and the combat and just seeing what the Trails experience is all about, at first hand. Like it's a really solid, really great game. And like I said, I like for the fifth time, I can't wait. I really can't wait to play the next game. Like it's so good. And make sure you comment. Let me know how you guys feel. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you hit the notification bell so that you never miss any updates or videos and live streams, all that good stuff. Make sure you keep up on the community/post section on the channel, and you can also follow me on Blue Sky as well for updates. With all that being said, this is the Space Cowboy, and I hope you guys have a good night.